Here for you for week 5, taking you through all the things you need to know last minute before setting your lineups in the world of daily fantasy sports. I'm Chris Spags, joined by my Sunday morning buddy, Mr. Chubster himself, Josh Engelman. Mr. Chubster, how you doing, Josh?
I mean, I'm pretty good, I guess. It's been a nice week. Baseball has put itself on the back burner, so I can focus on football and golf and MMA and NBA. I did just an incredible amount of NBA work this week, so I'm kind of happy about that. But I don't know. It's good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. NBA too. I did some digging. I played with my sheet, made some changes to the data, and now I presented it. So that felt good. We're coming right around the bend.
It really is. It really is. So soon. What is that?
Do we have anything to plug
days?
for? Do we have anything to plug for NBA with the packages? I don't know what that status is.
That we have NBA now, and that Eddie is doing shows. Preseason
okay.
is live and going. Nothing today. It's only a one gamer, but we did a show last night. Eddie will have rankings, and we'll have live streams for all of the slates that are meaningful. There's 4 games on Monday, so Eddie will be back on Monday.
Preseason last year, I mean, I did really well with preseason in part because of Eddie's content and the stuff that he contributes. A lot of great resources that he has in terms of how teams approach things for the preseason. So go check out that content that he's doing. Of course, check out Fast Eddie if you're on Twitter. See whenever he's doing shows. But a lot of stuff coming up. Preseason content is there. You can go check out all the packages we have right now at awesemo.com/join. Also use that promo code live before lock for half off your first month. And one other quick plug as well. Fantasydraft.com, of course, the presenting sponsor here of the Awesemo Live Before Lock show, and many of the other great content that you'll find on the channel. We do appreciate them because they're the official home of Rake Free Daily Fantasy. Last week, our own Ship My Money took down the Big Hooters main event. It's one of the biggest, the only gigantic Rake Free tournament out there. Let's go to fantasydraft.com right now. Use that promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, for your free 7-day trial and your first $1,000 in Rake Free entries. And actually, I am playing on Fantasy Draft this week too. I'm joining the team now that I've seen that even Adam can win on there. Now it's time to get on board. You playing on Fantasy Draft this week?
I am indeed. Fantasy Draft and Yahoo, the only 2 places I will be. Well, FanDuel satellites, but Fantasy Draft and Yahoo get all my volume, and Fantasy Draft gets like, I don't know, 75% of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of value there. It's been a good amount of overlay. I mean, hopefully getting less overlay by the week with all this promotion that we're doing, I'm sure. But
I'm pretty sure it's going to fill today, actually.
Really? Good. Wow. I mean, people that Ship My Money plug probably.
Yeah, they're only 1,500. They're 91% full already. So if it doesn't fill, it's going to be very, very close. But that one is almost at maximum capacity. Yahoo, on the other hand, going to overlay by a mile. Get your money in there.
Yeah, get your money. Take advantage of overlay wherever you can. Take advantage of rake free and no management fee DFS on a lot of our sponsor sites. Go to fantasydraft.com right now and check them out. All right, let's talk about the things that we're doing this week, and quarterbacks, generally what we're starting with. And I'm curious where you're going because it's just kind of a flat ownership week for quarterbacks, it seems. I mean, we have some guys who are projected for more, but I do think there are a lot of different ways you can go. Really nobody jumping out as a super chalky play. How are you feeling about quarterbacks, and who are your most exposed guys?
I have my Yahoo lineups in. That's official. 6 quarterbacks: Matt Ryan, Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers.
Interesting. Okay. Who you have the most of thus far?
I have an equal amount of all of those guys on Yahoo. On Fantasy Draft, Matt Ryan leading the charge. I got some Jacoby Brissett as of right now, but I just refreshed my first crunch, so I haven't really started like tweaking stuff. Good news is only 13% odd and Tate, so I don't feel bad yet.
Nor should you, but I may because I have a lot more Auden Tate. And in fact, I also have a lot of Andy Dalton this week. So I am ride or die. He's not at a great price on DraftKings, but I do think the opportunity is pretty big. I like a lot of the matchups that Cincinnati has going against Arizona, a fast-paced team. And I just like the bounce back spot. I didn't take the bounce back last week for Marcus Mariota. I wrote about it. I talked about it on a show. Didn't play him enough. And this week I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and play a lot of Andy Dalton in lineups with Auden Tate, with Tyler Eifert, with Tyler Boyd, with Joe Mixon. And you're not an Andy Dalton guy, I'm going to presume.
I mean, he's one of the 6 on Yahoo. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I missed him in the 6. Okay.
I mean, I'm not like excited about it or anything.
Nor should you be. It's certainly a high leverage spot, one that could make me very sad in literally just about an hour. I'll be surprised if you got sacked and gave up some pick sixes right away. But it's just a nice spot, I think. Like, it does project well overall. A decent value play on most of the sites. As you mentioned, Yahoo, a little better value for Andy Dalton. But I'm feeling it. He's thrown it over 40 times a game. Arizona's been mostly bad, giving up a lot of rushing yards, giving up a lot of passing yards, and I think they were at a low in that Pittsburgh game last week, and got to be something. They're not as bad as they seem, I don't think, at least offensively.
I'm solely making this decision based on the top stack odds in Alex's top stack tool and their ownership on Yahoo. I assume that this is not going to be the same sort of story for me on Fantasy Draft because I don't pay as much attention to it. But on Yahoo, since I'm entering everything manually, go ahead and just pick out the spots that I want to be in. So yeah, I'll have Les Dalton on Fantasy Draft for sure. I do gotta work my way away from this 83% Leonard Fournette as of right now.
He projects very well. Alex has him really extremely well projected, and I got a good chunk of him. I think I'm going to be with the field. We have him projected for under 20% ownership. That's about where I am, so I'm comfortable with that. It's hard to deny the upside with the amount of touches he's getting. That both the running backs in that game, 22 touches a game for Fournette, 27 a game for McCaffrey, who has been a stellar 100-yard and a TD pick. my 3 wins.
Yeah, for real.
But let's talk more quarterbacks. You said you have Jameis, so you're going there again after he did have the big week last week, a bit of an unexpected big week for most people out there. How are you feeling about him? Like, it's kind of a high price stack to get to, and how much Jameis do you have? And I guess who are your primary targets? I'm gonna assume a lot of Evans and a lot of Godwin.
Half Godwin, half Evans. Yeah, he can go crazy, and if he goes for 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, I don't care all that much about the interceptions. It's a volume thing. I'm willing to take those chances. Again, he's one of the guys, one of the 6 that I have on Yahoo today. Did not show up in my fantasy draft crunch as of yet, but it's early.
It's a good projection for him again as well. And he's throwing 35 times a game. He is still Jameis. He is still prone to make some mistakes, but the New Orleans secondary is not good at all. Marshawn Lattimore giving up a ton of yards overall, actually the most yards allowed by a cornerback in the league so far. Certainly seems like he's due for some positive regression, but that's going to help out Mike Evans, who's going to be shadowed by him. I don't hate the idea of going to Jameis. It just feels like whenever there are people going to Jameis, that's when he's most inclined to disappoint. And there are some people going there today.
I'm pretty sure his ownership is like non-existent on Yahoo, but let me double check it.
He's come down a little on DK. He was closer to 10% on the last run, but I think now we have him at 6%.
He is at 2% on Yahoo, so a little bit different.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair then. I mean, look, if you're going to get a low-owned Jameis, we've seen the upside. He's certainly showing some more capability, and yeah, he'll throw some picks. The INT rate's still not good. 3.6% INT rate, which is pretty high, but it's still a situation where he's going to be throwing enough. And if New Orleans can score, I do think there are some concerns. Like, if New Orleans just doesn't get going, I don't know that you have to have Jameis pushing it a lot. And not the highest implied total for them, just 21.3 points for Tampa Bay.
Yeah. I just like the volume, and graded out really well in the top stack tool. Essentially no ownership, so it's not like I'm going to be holding hands with anyone as the day goes on. Feels like a decent spot to hitch my wagon. Seems like one of Godwin or Mike Evans is just going bonkers every week. So
yeah, it's been a move just to take the cheaper guy for the most part and just see how they do. And that has paid off. And this week it would be Godwin again being the cheaper guy, though. I do think this is more of an Evans matchup. Like last week, I did feel like a Chris Godwin one just because, he's kind of a short route guy. He's going to get more of those intermediate targets, which is a situation that would benefit him more against the Rams. New Orleans has been getting beat deep a decent amount. So I think Mike Evans could be the play this week, but really no issue with either guy. How about this Houston game? Because I think you mentioned you have some Watson, you have some Ryan. Ryan's going to be the chalkiest QB on DK, it looks like. Or actually, no, we now have Deshaun Watson pretty much right there with him. These guys are going to be pretty decently owned. It seems like a spot that could shoot out one of the higher combined totals of the slate. Which of these guys would you prefer?
It's a good question. I have them both in that 6-man group, so it's tricky. Probably Matt Ryan. I think his floor is a lot higher. He's just heaving the ball nonstop every week. So I think I would probably rather have Matt Ryan, although, God, I really like that Deshaun Watson Hopkins combo. Even though I've got a lot of Fuller as well, which makes me a little bit less happy, but to get to Ryan, Julio, Ridley, Sanu, Hooper, Freeman to a lesser extent, it makes me scared to not have Matt Ryan because I just assume that one of those guys is going to have a monster day.
Yeah, I mean, and Hooper, what a rise for a guy who there were some doubters, some cynics last year for Austin Hooper. He's getting over 8 targets a game now, and he's going to be one of the chalkiest tight ends on the week, but which does make him, a little bit tougher to fully want to rely on, even though I am relying on him at a decent bit of volume, especially for the slate. I feel like there's not a lot of great tight end plays out there in general. I just like seeing how he's so involved. He's getting 8 targets a game. He's going to be a chalk play. I'm proud of Austin Hooper. I want to reflect that to you, Josh.
If he's going to get 9, 6, 7, and 11 targets, and how do you avoid that?
He's running 37 routes per game too, which is pretty high for a tight end. He's very involved. Like this Atlanta offense overall. I mean, the thing that's I think tough about them, and I guess it does make them kind of appealing for tournaments. Like you went to Ridley and Sanu, you're not getting much ownership, but those guys are certainly involved too, running a lot of routes. Hooper, very involved as we just talked about. Julio Jones still very much in the mix. So it's a very nice matchup this week. One of the better matchups according to PFF's wide receiver cornerback grades. So like there's a lot of ways you can stack them up and try to differentiate. And I think I pretty much every combination of Falcons this week overall.
Smart. I think it's really smart.
How about Houston? Because I think we talked about Watson. He's also a strong play, a little bit more of a rushing floor than Matt Ryan has. Hopkins certainly seems like he's due for bigger days than he's had so far. A little bit of a disappointment early in this year. No Kenny Stills as well, which is going to open things up a bit more for Will Fuller as well as Kiki QT, especially if Houston ends up trailing. Who are going to be your preferred targets to pair with Watson? Obviously, Hopkins is a big one, but Fuller does seem to have a pretty decent value, and QT, not a crazy play.
Only Hopkins and Fuller are options, in my opinion. I mean, if you're like game stacking it, it's completely different. But if that's not what you're looking to do, I wouldn't go any lower than I wouldn't do anything other than Hopkins and Fuller, and that's it.
Okay, I mean, yeah,
I'm just afraid that like Deshaun Watson's going to die during a game.
Well, he does get sacked quite a bit, but Atlanta really doesn't generate enough pressure. So I think that is kind of the ideal spot for him. They just have a 4% sack rate on the year, and that should help out Watson, who's getting sacked at a 12% rate. That's not good.
That's what I mean. It's like it's super scary. Super scary. Yeah. He gets bludgeoned like constantly. It's rough, man.
Good thing they got Laramie Tunsil in there to help balance all that out.
He's probably too high to care.
That's also probably true. He's been decent under pressure on the year. He's getting pressure though at one of the highest rates. According to PFF, 47% pressure rate for him, and an 89 QB rating, 89.4, which is fine. That's probably like about average for a guy under pressure. So, but certainly makes him a bit less appealing, and he does hold on to the ball a bit too much. 3.1 seconds in the pocket, that's going to get you sacked a lot. So there's some things for him to fix. But maybe Atlanta, it really did look hapless last week rather, and the injury is kind of racking up for them. So it does seem like a spot for Watson where maybe the best possible situation he could be in.
Well, I hope so. I mean, look, I think that game is the most likely to put up like a really crazy number. So I'm hoping that is exactly what happens considering my exposure on Yahoo.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a nice spot, and certainly one that I have a good amount as well. I'm trying to think, who else are we getting some? So here's a guy I have a little bit of, not as much as I thought I would going in, because for some reason, after doing On the Contrary yesterday with Osimo and Chris Randone, I just wasn't feeling it quite as much. Alex was not bullish on Kirk Cousins prospects. I did think this could be the week where just there's so much grousing going around with the passing game, and the perpetual squeaky wheel narrative is always a thing that people have talked about in the fantasy sports world for a while. These guys have just bitched publicly in a variety of forms. Both Diggs and Thielen have complained about the passing game, and going against the Giants, you would think they have some opportunity. You didn't play any because, or I don't recall him being in your group of 6, but is he a player that you would consider given the fact he's going to be 3% owned and it's just the buzzards are circling for him?
I don't get the sense that I'm going to be having him on any site today.
Okay. Yeah, I have a little bit. I think he was worth a little bit to me. I also have a little bit of Thielen, a little bit of Diggs scattered about. But I do think, it's hard to really imagine them throwing the ball a ton. I think they can throw enough where these guys are placated and are quiet. And maybe they're not, because Diggs just got fined $200K too for like whatever missing meetings and stuff. Yeah. Like it's a weird situation there.
I mean, you're proving to look pretty smart as of right now. We'll see where we get at the end of the season. But Thielen and Diggs and the Vikings offense in general outside of Dalvin Cook has not been very illustrious so far.
No, and this is the spot too where you would think like the Giants had a good week last week going against Dwayne Haskins, who I made this joke with Laffy, would make it again. Might as well have been Dennis Haskins out there.
Most people probably not getting that one.
No, it's Mr. Belding, guys, from Saved by the Bell, so which they're rebooting now, by the way. I don't know if you caught that.
What do you mean they're rebooting it?
They are doing it again with I think Mario Lopez and and what's Elizabeth Berkley being parents of kids who are going to Bayside.
Huh.
Yeah.
I
And
wonder if
apparently
anybody's going
Zach
to get
Morris,
addicted to caffeine pills in a week this time.
no, the caffeine pills will get you, man. That's you don't know the amount of times I walk through the homeless areas here in downtown Los Angeles and to see people just shaking with their caffeine pill addictions.
4 to 5 days, and
them
that girl
left.
can't handle a cup of coffee, and now kids eat fucking Tide Pods. Where have we gone, man? Where have we got? You got to write this show in a completely different manner. Zach Morris would have got Me Too'd like 6,000 times.
Just freezing time and groping.
Yeah. He made everyone just stop moving. He assaulted me over and over again. Like, that would have happened, man. That would have happened. It's a bad time to be Zach Morris.
Apparently, too, he's in this show, he's going to be the governor of California. So
I like it.
I mean, look, I think that's a clever spin on it, but they apparently didn't talk to Mark Paul Gosselaar. Look, I could talk about this show for. I love Saved by the Bell, and I'm glad. Like, I enjoyed Fuller House too. I enjoy these reboots. I think it's very silly that they're doing this over and over again, but why not? You got to fill hours of streaming time. We do that. They have to do that too.
I'm gonna go ahead and pass on this one. Probably not gonna catch any EPs.
It's gonna be on the Peacock, NBC streaming network. So.
I will certainly never see that then.
I would torrent it, I think. Let's talk about a guy who I don't have much interest in, but I do want to bring it up because I think people just assume that he's going to go nuts in the spot because Washington is so bad. But Tom Brady, he is obviously a great quarterback. I just don't think he's pulling out enough now. Now that the weapons have kind of gotten banged up. Edelman is going to be active today, so that's certainly going to help. But still a situation where like you don't really need to do a lot in the pass game to beat Washington. I think it's just you do enough to get by, and that's probably going to involve some Sony Michel, some James White. Probably some Josh Gordon and Julian Edelman, but I don't know enough to maintain a stack. Would you have interest in Tom Brady here, given that he's not going to be owned and he is an elite, high upside quarterback against a bad team, but just kind of hard to trust?
I got nothing. I mean, if you told me that he threw 5 touchdown passes to 5 separate people against the Redskins today, I'd be like, yeah, of course he did. He's Tom Brady and the Redskins stink. If you told me that he didn't throw a touchdown pass because some random asshole fullback had 2 of them, that would also make perfect sense to me. I don't know how you ever trust the Patriots offense.
Yeah, there's just too many ways they can beat you, which is great for real life football. If you're a Patriots fan, your team is awesome. And for the record, I am playing a crap load of this defense again. I know it's not a plus EV play to play a defense that's this high priced, but 12.5 implied points now for Washington. It's gone down even further with Colt McCoy out there. Not a guy I'm afraid of, and I do think they can wreak havoc, which they've done time and again. So for me, I'm willing to pay for them. But I guess we don't talk much defense here, but I assume you're not paying up for New England this week.
I don't remember them showing up on Yahoo. I have no idea. It doesn't look like they're going to be showing up for me on Fantasy Draft. It's just not something that I'll even notice. I won't know what defenses I have.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, look, it's certainly a spot where you're paying like basically like a decent wide receiver price for New England on some of the sites, but I just think the upside's been there and they have bailed me out. And a lot of lineups, like the Keenan Allen, we both had a lot of Keenan Allen last week, ended up being a debacle with him getting a touchdown called back, which certainly ruined his prospects there.
I don't want to talk about it.
It wasn't the best. It wasn't the best for anybody.
It certainly
but New
wasn't.
England, in the lineups where I had Keenan Allen, I did have New England bailing me out time and again at not much ownership. And I think if people aren't willing to pay for them, I am indeed very into the idea of going there and just hoping that they continue to do what they do against this is like the lowest implied total for an NFL team that I can recall in a while.
I mean, they should just absolutely eviscerate the Redskins, right? That's just like what should happen.
Having Terry McLaurin in there does make it a little better, I think, because he is a deep threat. He has shown some ability to kind of create separation and also just get deep downfield. But I think, yeah, there's no way to me. I can't imagine Colt McCoy, even at home. Like, I just can't imagine him getting anything done against this team. And Washington, disharmonious. Did you see the videos of Jay Gruden from Sarasota?
No.
Or Saratoga or whatever. He was at some like horse racing thing, I believe, and was like smoking weed and trying to bang chicks. And it's just like, and there was like rumors that the Redskins leaked it because they're trying to like get him to get fired for cause, I believe, or something.
To be fair, that's probably a better use of his time than coaching these scrubs.
That's also probably fair. But yeah, I don't know. It just seems like a really bad situation there, and one that New England is a great defense. And they also seem to be really taking pride in like oppressing the scoring of other teams. Like Bill Belichick actually looks happy when out there with how the defense has been playing. And I don't see any reason why Washington would turn that around today, even with the that Colt McCoy magic that we all know and love.
I mean, if they score, if I said the over under is, and this is probably what it actually is, over under Redskins touchdowns 1.5, what would you take?
Ooh, I would take the under. I think they could get 1-2 seems like a real stretch.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Just they should be confident and happy and shit because the Redskins are dreadful. They are 3 separate quarterbacks on the roster, and none of them should start an NFL game.
No, I mean, I was floored by how bad Haskins looked. He looked in that first drive, and I was like in on that game. Unfortunately, I had Case Keenum, which was a nightmare situation, and enough lineups. I didn't have a crazy amount of volume, but enough that it hurt me. And there's him and no McLaurin out there, and Paul Richardson not getting the separation that he needed to do well. And Haskins just like against that Giants defense that's given up everything to everybody, made Josh Allen look like a Mike Vick in that Madden game where he was the best player in the world. I think that's sort of like what the Giants defense is. And Haskins had like a 50% completion rate and a 17% INT rate. Like he was awful.
I mean, he should be awful. He shouldn't be good for like years. And it's not like, Keenum's any good. Colt McCoy is 600 years old. If this game were like the Red River rivalry or something, then maybe you'd have a shot. But it's been like 15 years since I cared about Colt McCoy. Honestly, I feel like he's been in the league forever. That might be wrong.
He's 33, so he's actually.
Is he really? Jesus, yeah. I smushed. I get him super confused with like Major Applewhite and the rest of those like tiny Texas quarterbacks that existed in the late 90s and early 2000s.
I think Case Keenum too. Oh, Case Keenum's only 31. Wow. I would Colt McCoy being 33, that felt about right because I felt like he was a little bit younger than you and I feel like I remember him being in college around the same time. Keenum, though, I would have thought was like 35, 36, maybe 37.
No, he was like a late bloomer.
Yeah, I guess so. That's strange. All right, well, we learned a lot about Redskins quarterbacks.
More than we would like to know.
Yeah, and don't play them too would be the thing. Though 4,100 for Colt McCoy. Boy, if he gets going and beats a Patriots defense who's higher priced than he is, that would be something. That would be a hell of an NFL thing to happen.
I am not having a lot of luck with running this fantasy draft crunch right now. Not
oh boy,
at all.
Some long comments in there.
I just I'm getting a lot of T.Y. Hilton, which I'm normally really happy about, but today slightly apprehensive. It's a little scary.
Yeah, having the Sunday night game on Fantasy Draft, I feel like does throw a little extra wrinkle in there where I was like, oh, that's right, I could play Chiefs and Colts and they could just break the slate completely. And I didn't really play it. I don't think I played them in the handful of lineups I made for Fantasy Draft, but certainly a spot where that game could be very high scoring or should be high scoring and probably more high scoring than some of the games that we have on the main slate.
Oh, I'm only nervous about his health. I don't care what time the game happens.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, just one other wrinkle there on Fantasy Draft. And of course, go to fantasydraft.com and use that promo code AWESOMO for your free 7-day trial on there. That is a big win for you and not paying rake. Just rake is what kills you in DFS. So time and again, and just makes it easier to keep your money and keep your profits. And all the prizes go to the winners. It's all you want out of your DFS sites.
I love when Brick shows us those screenshots of how much he saved in rake, and it's just some staggering number.
Yeah, look, I mean, it is a product that certainly does what it's asked or what you're trying to get it to do. You're paying less, and they show you how much you're paying less, and that's, for DFS, you got to find your edges where you can, and that is certainly still one of them. Kyler Murray, not a guy who I believe was in your 6-pack of QBs. He is a guy who does interest me a bit here just because Cincinnati's been so terrible. I mean, we kind of saw what Mason Rudolph, not a very impressive quarterback to me, but a guy who was able to complete a lot of passes, a lot of low-risk passes for him, but kind of similar to how Kyler Murray does, a lot of passes to the flat. Even without Christian Kirk in there, I would think you're going to see a lot of targets for David Johnson. You're going to see he had 11 last week. Fitzgerald still averaging over 9 a game. Keyshawn Johnson, Trent Sherfield, they're going to be out there. Andy Isabella probably going to be out there as well. These guys are on the cusp of playability, I would think, but not guys I'd want a ton of. But Kyler Murray is interesting. Is he somebody that, I mean, not you didn't land on him, I don't believe, but do you find his ownership to be fair at 7%-ish on DK?
I have very little interest in Murray. I like Johnson and Fitz quite a bit, but I have a hard time believing that Kyler Murray is the guy that I'm going to need for today.
Yeah, his price makes him a little bit less appealing because he is kind of expensive. But, I think the talent's there, and I do think this matchup does have some shootout potential. 2 fast-paced teams here. Arizona, we've talked about it a bunch, but they are playing at the fastest pace in the league, 23.9 seconds per snap. On the other side, Cincinnati also playing pretty fast, 26.7 seconds per snap, which is would actually last year would have been the highest number in the league, or right there pretty much with the fastest paced teams. So I think there's going to be some more possessions here. And I think the defenses are bad enough where I think this game has pretty big shootout potential. And if people don't want to go to the quarterbacks, but they are going to the position players, I do think that is a bit of an edge.
That's fair. I have a lot of Bengals defense, actually.
They come up, yeah. Alex has them projected well, too. I got some of them. Yeah, I get it. I think Arizona's made enough mistakes where I could see it. I could also honestly see playing Arizona because Arizona does get decent pressure, and Andy Dalton has been really struggling with pressure. This offensive line for Cincinnati has been really bad. If there is one real concern there, it's that they are not able to block at all, and that's certainly contributing to Dalton's struggles. A 10% sack rate for Andy Dalton, which is up for him quite a bit from last year, so that's going to hurt. Going to increase his likelihood of getting picks if they do get pressure on him. So some risk, but I think the hope is that the defenses are bad enough, and these guys could do some scoring. Let's see. Anything ownership-wise, like for QBs? I feel like the ownership, we kind of covered all the main guys.
Yeah.
You did say you have Aaron Rodgers.
I do.
So what spoke to you about him? What spoke to your soul with the Aaron Rodgers ownership?
So they had the like 5th or 6th highest top stack odds, but essentially no ownership going to Rodgers. So sometimes I just want to bet on talent, and I like Rodgers a lot. And Valdez-Scantling is really easy to get to. Aaron Jones is really easy to get to. So I didn't have much issue like loading up my lineup with Packer guys.
I feel like not having Devontae Adams out there, I think like I would assume we're going to have Geronimo Allison running a lot of the similar routes on the outside because he is kind of I wouldn't say the direct backup, but he is a guy who kind of can play a similar role and has a similar body type. But I just feel like losing to Adams is such a big loss. And this Cowboys defense has been good. They had a tough first week. Besides that, pretty good in coverage and doing a good job. I don't know. Like I think that there is some concern for me with Rodgers. Like I think the run games here are going to be what's important for both sides. I think Rodgers could have he can have a decent day. He's Aaron Rodgers, but I think not having Adams is a big loss.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. It's rare that you ever want the best receiver on the team by a mile to not be there. I'm just not copying defense. Sorry, I got super confused by what I was doing right now, and it was not helping me at all. Couldn't figure out why my defense column was just blank, but that's what happens when you don't copy it at all. I mean, I see this game as a spot where, like, I think the Dallas offense is just better. I assume that Rodgers is going to have to try to keep them in this game. It being in Dallas, I think, is very helpful. I think he's just going to have to sling it today, or at least that's my hope. I'm hoping just volume gets us there, or at least gets me there.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. As a thought, I think, it looks like a really nice spot for Zeke. The Green Bay defense has been really bad versus the rush, giving up 143 yards per game, just about. I think that's a spot where you would think Dallas would be able to run the ball down their throats. And if Green Bay falls behind, they can fall behind 2 touchdowns pretty fast. And you have Michael Gallup out there again as well, and he's going to spread the field a bit more. No Tyron Smith for the Cowboys, a bit of a loss for Dak because he has struggled quite a bit in games without Tyron Smith out there. But still, a nice situation where if Dallas does score, yeah, I get it. I guess and with no Adams as well, I think that just kind of puts Rodgers under people's radar. So if he does have that big day, it's going to be at not much ownership, and he's still Aaron Rodgers.
Right, that's sort of the appeal. The fact that he is unowned. If he was like 7 or 8% and it was just sort of neutral, I probably wouldn't be there.
Yep. All right. Weddle Boy is asking ownership on the Red Rifle. He is going to be projected for 8% right now in DK. So I'll tell you what, I am a hefty a bit above that.
Above who?
Above 8% for Andy Dalton.
Oh,
I am about a 30% Andy Dalton boy today.
That's too much Andy Dalton.
It's a lot of Andy Dalton, but I'm trying to buy where there's blood in the streets this week. I was really mad at myself for not playing that Titan stack. I think I had in like one lineup, and that would have actually been a stack that opened up a lot of things. So I'm doing it this week, even though, not a premium price for Dalton, not a value play, but still a guy who I think has the upside.
Well, that is so much Andy Dalton. That's more Andy Dalton than I think Andy Dalton would advocate for.
I get it. Victory only goes to the brave, Josh.
It doesn't actually. It doesn't at all.
That's true. Victory often goes to many cowards, but
yeah,
I will not back down. Me and Andy Dalton. All right, it's that time. We're at the halfway point of the show. The 100 yards and a TD. And this has been a tough game for our own Josh Engelman to crack, picking some great guys and currently rocking an offer, while one of us has gotten 3 guys 3 times correct. All in the back of White Lightning, Christian McCaffrey, and EMAC got on the board as well last week. EMAC also points out, by the way, in the premium Slack that Kirk Cousins is 31, which is kind of wild.
That's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah. I guess I just didn't think he was that young either. He just feels like, especially how long he's been around, kind of doing this thing, and like he outlived RG3 for the most part, even though RG3 is still playing.
Outlived.
Outlived his usefulness, I guess. But Josh, you are in last place, and I like to, as a kind man, I will let you go first because I want to see you get on the board this week after such luminaries as Ezekiel Elliott, Keenan Allen, and Alvin Kamara have let you down recently.
Well, let's see if Alvin Kamara doesn't let me down today.
Okay, Alvin Kamara for Josh. I am gonna go. Oh man, like I should just.
You pick Christian McCaffrey again, man. I'm quitting this stream.
No, I like honestly, I could pick him every week, which would be fun, but I won't this week. He's getting 27 touches a game, almost 28. Like it's hard to not get 100 yards on a TD when you're doing that.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm gonna go. You know what? I'll go to a guy who's failed you before. I think this week he will do me right. Ezekiel Elliott.
Great. Why am I getting so much Allen Robinson? Jesus.
Osmo liked him quite a bit. On the contrary, he liked that Bears attack in London a lot. It seemed.
Oh God, I like everything except my wide receiver exposures. I just need to figure this out.
Yeah, that's fair. Waiting for EMAC, by the way. Once EMAC drops his pick in, of course, EMAC, historically a fantastic competitor in all these parlor trick games that we do here. So we'll see what EMAC has for you, and I'll let you guys know. But yeah, looking at the chat. Bears offense that good. I don't think it's that the Bears offense is that good. Drew on the kit is asking on the YouTube chat. It's just that he's Chase Daniels 4,800, and that's sort of a nice price to go to for him. The stack itself, as Alex mentioned on the contrary yesterday, Tariq Cohen pretty cheap, should be involved in the passing game, should be able to get some short check down kind of passes from Daniel. Also, Oakland's defense has been terrible. Allen Robinson not at a crazy price and still seeing a good amount of volume. So I think it's sort of an easy stack to get to. If you wanted to go to Trey Burton, you could do that. I don't think that's a great play, but it's certainly a play to make.
EMAC made his pick, by the way.
Oh, let's see. Oh, what a dick.
That made me happy.
He's going to Christian McCaffrey. He's taking my boy. And he's going to do poorly because EMAC took him. That's how it's going to go.
I'm not going to lie. That was an incredibly satisfying turn of events.
I mean, this game, like, I feel like we might have to try to do like a lower friction one next week. We picked all guys that were over 8,000 on DK.
Yeah, it's not a very good operation we're running here.
No, we did not dig very deep for this one. There were so many guys too. I have like Hooper I could take. I have a ton of him. Tyler Eifert. I don't think he gets 100 in TD, but I think he gets Eifert. TD. Yep. Oh, I like Tyler Eifert's one of my guys this week.
I'm sure I don't have him.
Oh, victory lap. Will Dissly, huh?
Yeah, it was nothing. What was this final line?
Better than Evan Ingram's, better than Travis Kelce's.
Well, yeah, that's a completely different question. I don't regret at all not having 6 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. Will Dissly. If you want to play him in cash, that's great. It's a shit DPB play. Nothing changed.
He won them. He was in the Millie Maker lineup. Like he was the right play in that matchup. And I think he got basically what we said that like I would be okay with. And you're like, that's not that great.
Yeah, I stand by my story. He didn't have a big game. Nothing happened. Yeah, he was a fantastic cash tight end option, which is exactly what we thought. But yeah, nothing happened.
7 for 57 in a TD last week.
Right. I'll happily not have that as a chalk play every single day.
I guess so. I get where you're going with it, but I did say like it just opened up enough things to make some lineups that would get you some guys. That was exactly what the Millionaire Maker lineup was. So I am victory lapping this. I'm double victory lapping it. Look at me victory lapping.
If we're using the Millie Maker winner as a recommendation of what people should do, you guys should tune into a different show because we're giving you terrible information.
No, but that's still validation of the concept.
It is not validation. The Millie Maker, that is the worst tournament we could possibly look at to like pat ourselves on the back. Hold
on. I'll look in the play action. I'm sure it was similar. I'm sure like most of these tournaments it was.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that he had a bad game, but as a chalk play, that's not like he didn't do anything interesting. He played to his projections. That's why Josh doesn't win tournaments. Yeah, you nailed it, E-Rock. Because I didn't play Will Dissly getting 57 yards receiving last week. Whew.
But I don't know. I think it was just more that if the top end tight ends fail, who are going to have ownership, guys like Kelsey, guys like that, he opened up enough stuff, and that's exactly like play action winner had him too. Like it
I
was
love that the
just
call is he was a good play because the other guys did poorly, not because of like his performance. Because other people didn't have a lot of points, Will Dissly becomes good.
What's
like
that he
30% owned.
In the first down, it was not Will Dissly. It was TJ Hawkinson, who somebody pivoted to, who had less points, but was slightly cheaper. So I don't know. I think it opened it up. I think it was a solid play. I think his involvement was there. There was some stuff too, like Christopher Harris broke him down, and why Will Dissly, like why he's a little more comfortable with him. He's a first look, like he's not like a check down guy exclusively. He's a guy they're looking for. They're setting up plays directly for him. I think that does have some value, and I think I really did view it through the lens of like baseball, where it's like, does he open up things for me? Like you could afford Robert Woods and Chris Godwin together because of him. That's what the people had who won a lot of the tournaments. So, I think if a guy at tight end who's not shaky to me, or like if you feel like he's good, I thought he was good. You think he's a little shakier, so I get it.
I love when people are like, Josh doesn't even win. I think I dedicate my life to this shit and just burn money. Come on now. God, that would be so depressing. That's crazy.
I mean, also, winning is hard. It's not.
It's really not. It's really not.
In NFL, it is.
What do you mean by winning? Like winning the milli? Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, like taking down like large GPPs.
Oh yeah. Taking them down is hard. Profiting is relatively easy. If I was like a negative 20% player before this, I probably wouldn't have started a stream.
Well, I agree. Look, people want to tear you down because like a lot of Will Dissly fans out there, all my Dissly maniacs. It's okay. You don't have to be negative to Josh. He was just wrong and I was right, and let's all focus on that part of it.
Then I'm going to be wrong a lot in GPPs for not taking a chalk tight end that gets 57 yards receiving as expected.
Let's see. Pedrito PR asking, you are playing some FanDuel, right? But who is your favorite QB on FanDuel this week?
I no idea. Whoever is projected best for Alex's projections.
And it does seem like that would be Lamar Jackson, who I have none of, so that's interesting. I mean, I'm not playing FanDuel. I'm only playing DK and Fantasy Draft, but yeah. Pedrito, it looks like it would be Lamar Jackson for Alex. I certainly still don't have an issue with Matt Ryan at his price point. Still a good value play. But I think the Jackson does project pretty well by a decent stretch. So it does like he'd be him for Alex, but I think Ryan and Watson are pretty close. And don't forget Andy Dalton, of course.
Absolutely.
Never forget Andy Dalton. All right, let's talk about
the typical never forget, right? That's the only never forget we know. Never forget Andy Dalton.
Yeah, I think that's.
I think that's the only one.
He's gonna be good.
Hey man, we are on the same boat here. I mean, I don't have like 600% of him or anything like that, but you and I are both cheering for Andy Dalton, unfortunately.
That'll be fun. All right. How are we feeling about the running back plays? We do have some chalky running backs here. Guys like David Johnson going to be owned. Leonard Fournette, we talked about. You have a ton of him so far. McCaffrey going to be the chalk play of the week at running back, it seems. It does seem like there is a kind of direct path to ownership for a lot of these guys. Dalvin Cook can be a little bit less owned, but still have some on him. Ezekiel Elliott also going to be a bit less owned, but still has some on him. Who are you getting the most of so far in your crunches?
McCaffrey and Fournette in particular. I mean, any amount of Christian McCaffrey that I get ever, I'm cool with. But right now, Fournette seems to be the guy that's leading most of my running back exposure today.
So I have less Fournette. I went a little bit more to Mixon because I like that game quite a bit and how it shakes out. And I just think it's like Fournette's touches are there. The volume is there. Carolina's defense giving up 4.9 yards per rush. So that's certainly a positive one. Even though yards per rush, not a great stat, does indicate that they've given up a good amount of rushing yards, 130 yards per game. Like it does look good for him. I just feel like coming off of a 200-yard game, like we have him at 18% ownership. It wouldn't shock me if that were a little bit closer to 20 or maybe a little bit more. I don't know. Like I feel like you can pivot to some other guys who maybe have similar upside, and I think that's how I feel about Fournette. But at a projection level, I get it.
I got to hit on something. And I want to be serious when I say this. Matthew G says, Dissly had 5 red zone targets, good for 25 market share. 2 from last week, 8 targets, priced like the 30th tight end. What a bad play, LOL. You're not understanding any of this right now. What you're basically describing is a cash game play. To win a contest, there is ownership involved of everybody else. I'm not trying to play the team that like is the most optimal lineup I can build. I'm trying to build a lineup that wins a tournament. And for me to play a tight end that I don't think has a large upside at a ownership number where he is aggressively a chalk tight end play, I think is not the best option to win a GPP. I agree with everything that was just said regarding him being a cash play. These are two completely different discussions.
Okay. I look, I think your point is fair. I just think, there were other spots that I could differentiate, and I thought I was comfortable with them. And,
Yeah.
and again, like I had a lot of Evan Ingram too, and that was a terrible play. So like I get it. I just think that, I think sometimes it looked like a layup spot against a team who's really funneled a lot to tight ends, which again, Tyler Eifert this week, guys. Probably not a high volume play, but a guy who can certainly do some damage. And I think that's sort of what I saw from this league, running routes at a higher rate, more opportunity with Nick Vannett getting traded. So it did check out for me, but I get it. I get your point with it. If he failed, he would have failed at high ownership, and then you get leverage in another way.
I just want to make sure that I'm getting out the reasoning behind it, which is solely ownership, has very little to do with how anybody is projected.
Yep. No, I get it. I think it's all different approaches. Like I think you can take that chalk if you believe in it, and then you can go out and try to differentiate somewhere else. And that is what I tried to do. And I regret playing as much Evan Ingram as I did. Those are the two summaries for me. How about David Johnson? How are you feeling about him? Because he's also priced up a little bit for this matchup, but should be more involved with no Christian Kirk. Should see a little bit more of those routes in the flat, which has been really helpful for Kirk and should be helpful for David Johnson. How much are you having of him? Because he's going to be pretty close to, he's a pretty chalky play everywhere, it looks like.
I'm right around the field, maybe slightly higher. Without Kirk being there, I just feel like he's a little bit more steady. Not that he needed to be steady to begin with, but it just kind of firms him up. Any one of the additional assholes on the Cardinals can do whatever, but as of right now, you would expect it to be Fitz and David Johnson being the guys that you can trust.
Yeah, I firmly agree with you on that. I think David Johnson should see a lot more looks this week. Over 9 targets out of the lineup with no Christian Kirk in there. They're not all going to go to Keyshawn Johnson. They're not all going to go to Andy Isabella. They're not going to go to Trent Sherfield. At least not, they're not all. They could certainly see a little bit more of an uptick, and that would be the hope. But David Johnson is more likely to get those easy passes. Larry Fitz likely to get more routes out of the slot, which is going to help him out too. So yeah, I'm with you on that, and I think David Johnson is actually a pretty solid play, and I don't mind being over the field on me, even if he is going to be decently owned.
Yeah, neither do I.
How much McCaffrey do you have?
63% on fantasy draft as of right now.
Okay, that's a good amount of McCaffrey.
Yeah, that's a guy I want to have a lot of, even if he's chalky.
Oh, yes, I agree. I think play McCaffrey every week. That has been one of my takes. I have lineups with McCaffrey, Cook, and Zeke, which I got to, which is, trust me, not easy work, but was able to get done. I think the high upside running backs have shown time and again, you pay up there, you know what you're getting for the most part. And Jacksonville's defense, certainly not a great one. Not a terrible one either. The run defense is pretty decently graded by PFF with a 70 grade, but McCaffrey is getting almost 30 touchdowns. It's wild how involved he is and how much better Kyle Allen has been for him.
Having a guy that can throw the ball is probably helpful.
That's generally an asset in football, you could say.
Pretty low bar.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a nice spot for McCaffrey. I think, you could try to pay down a little bit to get different. You go guys like Mixon in that price, or you go to Fournette in that lower price here, but it's hard to argue McCaffrey. And he could be upwards of, I think, in the mid 9s at this point. I'd still probably try to get him in a good amount of lineups, barring whatever else is out on the slate. Let's see. Running back, who else is going to be owned? How do you feel about Mixon? Because he's not getting terribly owned, but he's at a decent price. Alex has him projected as a good value play. How are you feeling about Joe Mixon?
That's a fun question. I have a lot of him on Yahoo.
Okay.
I'm not particularly enamored with that. Right now, I'm under the field on fantasy draft. We'll see where that ends up. But I know that I have him a ton on Yahoo. Every lineup that I felt like I was typing in had Joe Mixon in it. So he's in probably half of my Yahoo stuff just because of price.
Yeah, he's had the volume. I mean, he was up to, I think, 19 touches last week in that game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which it was just a bad spot all around. Certainly not a positive Joe Mixon game script. He was still getting those touches, and Arizona's just been pretty bad versus the run as well as the pass. And so to me, it seems like a nice spot for Mixon, one where he clearly has 2 touchdown upside. Actually, wouldn't have been a bad 100-yard and a TD pick if we were not such cowards.
Oh, for sure.
A pretty decent pick. Yeah, I like that spot quite a bit for Joe Mixon, so I'm in on him. Let's see who else. How are you doing? Oh, so Kamara is your guy. He's not too owned. Where are you relative to ownership with him?
Um, got a decent amount in Yahoo. It's looking like I'm getting a little bit less than I would have expected on Fantasy Draft, but I just think that game has the opportunity to be big. It's the part of the reason why I like Jameis. Like there could just be a staggering amount of offense, and if that's the case, I want to have the best guys in that game, and that'll be Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. Thomas in particular seems to be coming up a lot for me.
Yeah, really low price for Thomas. And even though Bridgewater, not a great quarterback in terms of how we define it in the modern NFL, probably a decent real life quarterback in terms of just limiting risk for the most part. But even that, well, he's not throwing INTs, he's not taking a ton of sacks. I think that's sort of what you want, what New Orleans wants out of him. But Thomas's price is too cheap. He's still getting 10 targets a game. Teddy seems to know to throw to him. He's not throwing to Ted Ginn anymore. He's not throwing it downfield even a little bit, but he is throwing to Michael Thomas and getting into Kamara, and that's sort of the two guys that you can trust, even if Teddy does kind of suck. I'm not a big Teddy Bridgewater fan.
Is anybody?
maybe his parents.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I don't have any like personal grudge against him or anything like that, but I mean, people have been trying to tug him for like 4 years as like the greatest guy in the world because he had one good year in Minnesota in 2001 or whatever. It felt like, Jesus, the guy's been gone forever.
He does get a lot of that like, oh, best backup in the league like talk. At least he did up until this run.
So did Matt Flynn.
That's a good point. And he made a lot of money too. I think Saints fans probably talk themselves into Teddy Bridgewater and think he's like good right now, even though the defense mostly have won them the games, and other guys, I think they would probably talk themselves into him too.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I'm a Saints fan, I'm trying to talk myself into anything because it's just a slight step down from Hall of Fame first ballot Drew Brees.
just a bit of a downtick to
right. So yeah, I don't. It's just one of those things.
One guy I have who I feel like is going to be, I see the chat talking about him, some consternation. T. McBee going Joe Mixon for the 100-yard and a TD. Very sharp play, T. McBee. I support you on that.
I like it.
Yeah, he's got more balls than us. So good stuff by T. McBee. He didn't go with the expensive price tier. He didn't go to the Saks Fifth Avenue running back tier. He went to the Macy's tier.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Sony Michel, how do you feel about him? Because I think no Burkhead seems like a spot that should help him out a bit. He's been so bad on the year. He's been bad getting yards after contact. He's been bad just yards per attempt. Every sort of metric you can look at. But the one that's important to me is he's getting 16 touches a game, go against a Washington team who's given up 4.7 yards per rush, allowing almost 150 rushing yards a game. It just seems like this should be a spot that Sony Michel does something. I know he's not a great PPR play, so maybe a little more appealing on FanDuel, but still a guy who I have on DK. I think the price works. How do you feel about Sony Michel?
I don't have him at all.
Okay. Yeah.
I have a lot more James White than anything else.
He projects well. He does project well. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a spot where I could see him getting those 2 touchdowns that he just, is due to get. I mean, he's still going to get the red zone touches. He's still getting 3 red zone carries a game, which is a good amount. And I just think Washington's so bad. Like, I don't see why you'd want to pass and why you'd need to take any risks. And I would let Sony Michel try to get his groove going because they need him. They need him to be what he was down the stretch last year. And he has not been that. So he's really been like on a numbers level. He's been so bad. He's like one of those pitchers to me in baseball where it's like, oh, he's so bad that he can't be this bad forever. So maybe take him on the upswing. I think that's kind of where I feel like Sony Michel is right now.
I think the problem is just that he's not good.
He was good down the stretch.
I think there's like 4 good running backs though, so there's also that.
Volume, but I mean volume. We saw that, Wayne Gallman last week. Volume, and that is Sony Michel's getting volume.
True, very true.
So, anybody else at running back you're getting? I mean, like Zeke, we talked about. I think he's a great play going against Green Bay. Green Bay's rushing defense looking bad. Dalvin Cook, really never going to have an issue with him. Certainly that has been what they wanted to do, is get Dalvin Cook established. Even if the passing game does get a TD for Thielen, a TD for Diggs, this matchup against the Giants, they should be able to get some for Dalvin as well. Who are you getting that we haven't hit on that you feel like is worth bringing to the people?
Not Dalvin Cook. He doesn't appear to come up for Alex's projections ever, which was scary as shit when he was running all over everybody last week. I got all sorts of nerves just trying to figure out what to do in that regard. Let's see who's popping up for me. Fournette, McCaffrey, James White, other guys. I got a little bit of Le'Veon Bell. I got a little bit of David Montgomery. I'm just thinking back to all my Yahoo lineups. I got a decent amount of Gallman on Yahoo. Still only $13, so can't really avoid that. That's probably it from running backs.
Yeah, Montgomery's a bit of an interesting one because he's going to be decently owned. I don't think he's been as impressive, like overall, if you look at the complete body of work, just getting 3.4 yards per attempt, only 2.3 yards after contact. So I just don't know that I buy into him being the bell cow back. He's getting 17 touches a game though, so that's going to matter the most going against Oakland. And in London, by the way, in case you guys aren't aware, I assume everybody would be, but just so you know, that is a game that is in London today.
Oh, that game's
So,
in London?
yeah.
Fucking with you, man.
Oh. Oh, I just answered you literally.
Yeah, no. I wasn't serious.
You know my brain function is slow.
I'm not Bill Simmons, man. I know where these games happen and who's at home and who's on the road. It's fine.
But yeah, like I think it's a spot where they can certainly do some damage against Oakland. Maybe lean on the run game more, but there should be some opportunity here. Chase Daniel, we talked about a little bit earlier. It does seem like they should be able to get something going against an Oakland defense who just getting worse by the week. Even though they've hung in there, won some games, the defense is not good. Not what I would define as good, at least.
No, not so much.
Wide receivers. Who is going to be your top exposed guys? We talked a little bit about Michael Thomas, but who else are you getting at high volumes?
Oh, wide receiver is not fun today. It's just not fun. I'm getting a lot of T.Y. Hilton. It doesn't appear that I can make that stop. Fitz, Hopkins, Julio. Those are going to be the guys that I'm most focused on. I got a little bit of Sammy Watkins on Yahoo, which I'm really nervous about, but should be easy to fix. And then Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, at least on Yahoo.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's going to be a lot of Bengals. May shock you to hear. I am a believer on Auden Tate. I just think that John Ross is leaving behind a pretty nice role there. I think 8 targets a game is a lot to be left behind. And Auden Tate has been getting targeted when he's been running routes. He also ran the same amount of routes as Tyler Boyd last week, and Boyd's still a solid play too. Yeah. I'm very in on the Bengals. If you hadn't tell, I'm sure though Auden Tate, similar to Will Dissly, I think there's a lot of logic to not playing him a lot in tournaments, but I do believe in the potential. I do think he has some upside too.
Man, being on the Bengals is really uncomfortable.
It is. It's not a great place to be. And the team totals come down a little bit too, which it doesn't give me the most confidence.
But I had a lot of them week 2, and that was a shit show. So, there's that.
But if you had them week 1, it would have been great.
Right. I didn't.
So,
I certainly did not.
It's the thing that I would say scares me a bit about Auden Tate and scares me in terms of like missing out on him is that like John Ross was really getting a lot of targets that got him into space. And he also did a good job for himself too. He's one of the better receivers in terms of yards after catch above expectation. And Auden Tate is not quite that speedster, but still a guy who kind of has the body type you want to see out of a top receiver. No AJ Green, obviously still out there. So that's going to give him some more opportunity. He's been getting good separation on his routes too, getting 3.9 yards separation when he's been targeted. So I think he has some potential today to do some damage. And at that price point, like I know it's a Dissly thing. I know it, but he's also 27% projected ownership for Auden Tate. But I think he's a good play, and he's chalk him on to take this week.
I see them as very different plays, just given Tate's price at this position. You just have to be careful when running your crunches. I'm getting more than I would like right now, so I'm going to walk him back a little bit. But actually, you know what? I'm running out of time. Got a little casual
this show flew by today for some reason.
But I mean, Boyd is the clear play there. Let's just make sure everybody understands that.
But I think Tate's in play. I do think Eifert's in play. He's been running a little bit less routes, but his routes per game have been going up each week. I think that gives him some opportunity here. And the Cardinals have been a really terrible team versus tight ends, where I don't think Tyler Eifert has probably the 7 catch 100-yard upside that he used to have when he was full health and not dying every season.
Yeah.
But he's still a guy who has that ability, still a big play guy. I think he's in play for me. And I think, if you have Dalton with Tate and with Eifert, you are saving a lot of money there that can open up some fun things.
You really are. Just be careful with Tate. It can get a little squirrely. I feel very comfortable with sort of any amount of Boyd that anyone wants to get to, though.
Yeah, Boyd, Mixon, I think the guys you can really trust there. But Tate and Eifert, I think, very in play. I also, this is the dart toss of all dart toss. I think that there is a spot for Alex Erickson in there who could get some of those John Ross routes. He's been a deep target, 3,100 on DK. I think I have a couple flyers on him on lineups without Tate.
I have no idea who that is.
Alex Erickson he's their punt returner guy. He's been a deep ball. Like they've thrown him deep balls before. He's gotten some deep targets. So he has the opportunity to do some John Ross things if somehow Auden Tate doesn't.
Okay.
Jeremiah Johnson, one of my perennial favorite names here on the YouTube channel, because he was a bullfrog. What about the other Tate of the golden variety? One of Alex's favorite plays on the week. I actually did force him in some lineups because I just trust Alex obviously enough to logically you would trust the top DFS player in the world for some of his takes.
What a terrible person to trust.
How are you feeling about the Auden's non-brother Golden?
I'm totally indifferent.
Okay.
Now it's just I don't know. I mean, he's fine. If he's in lineups, I don't mind or anything like that, but not a focus of me.
In lineups where I didn't have Will Fuller, I went to Tate a little bit because I think he has the same price point and he could see a good amount of targets. I'm curious to see how this Giants offense shakes out. Like it's not a great spot against Minnesota, but Sterling Shepard's been running a lot of that slot. So is Evan Ingram, and that's how they've gotten a lot of their value. But Golden Tate's historically been a slot guy. So I'm actually curious to see what they do this week because I think it's tough to trust. It's tough to trust against Minnesota. Tough to trust a rookie going against Minnesota, and they have been a solid defense. A little bit worse on the road, but still a solid defense. I don't know. I think Golden Tate could be interesting at his price point, especially as a pivot to Will Fuller, who I'm sure his ownership is coming up a little bit because of no Kenny Stills in there.
I don't know. I don't know what to do with Tate.
Also, would you say that Auden Tate is a cash play that you would want to have in there? Because people are talking about him as a cash lock, and
100%.
I would think. Yeah, okay. Because the ownership.
What's his ownership on DraftKings?
27%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
I would agree. Anything else at wide receiver that you're getting that we should? Are you going back to Keenan Allen after he hurt us so much last week?
Not as much as the public. He's at 30% right now. I've got 13. Keenan Allen's a guy where pretty much whatever you see for his exposure, you're like, okay, that'll work for me. Because he's just a major function of the offense. And it's not like Melvin Gordon really matters to him.
Mm-hmm.
So any Keenan Allen that I ever end up with is always cool with me.
Yeah, and I think too, people do overrate the matchup. I think people are afraid of Chris Harris for Denver. That's not something. There are three cornerbacks I personally am afraid of, or I find I don't want to go against, and that's Tre'Davious White. That is the Stephon Gilmore tier. That is not a guy like Christopher Harris or not Christopher Harris. He was a great podcaster.
It is not something that I pay attention to either way.
Yeah, I look at it. I think it's helpful to see, but for most cornerbacks, it's just, especially a guy like Keenan Allen has been so highly targeted, getting 14 targets a game even after his down week, or actually 12 targets a game, but still, nice spot for him. Anything else you're getting that you feel like we should hit on? I talked about my Patriots take, which I'm willing to pay for that defense today, though. The Titans look good at a cheaper price. There are some other dart tosses you can make. The Bengals we discussed is a cheap dart toss defense. Who else are you getting that the public needs to know before we lock?
I don't know, but I have 30% Andy Dalton now on
yes.
On
welcome to
fantasy
the club.
draft. So that's where
that makes me so happy.
That's where we're at right now.
Oh man, I
have
look, if Andy Dalton is
60% Fournette and McCaffrey.
Okay, wow, all right. I like that play. I think you're just taking good guys. That's just smart to me. At a certain point, you think
McCaffrey. Obviously, I don't think that I really need to say anything. If anybody needs that sort of justification, you probably shouldn't be playing NFL DFS. Fournette, he doesn't leave the field, which I feel like now that I say that, he's going to be leaving it on a cart. But sometimes I just want to bank on opportunity.
And it's very much been a clock control Jacksonville play. They're playing at a 30.2 second pace for their snaps. So they're going slow. They're just handing the ball off. They're trying to get Fournette easy check down throws. They're not trying to put Minshew in spots. Even though I think he's a very competent quarterback who can probably do a little more, they're just not risking things with him. And he's been great not throwing picks at all for the most part, Minshew is. And this game could have some points. And Carolina, not a fantastic rush defense, and volume is volume. Fournette and McCaffrey, just so much volume.
I wish I had 5 more minutes. I just noticed something that is just a giant mistake, and I have no ability to fix it.
What did you do?
This is something you want to make sure you pay attention to, which is funny. I have it written down in my little DFS notebook. I have 23% Matt Ryan on fantasy draft. Guess how many of those lineups came with Julio Jones?
0.
There you go.
Oh no. Oh no. Well, look, it's not like Julio Jones is a highly targeted great receiver or anything.
I didn't catch it until right now. Got to have those checks in place.
That is the tournament approach, though. Probably not in all your lineups, but if you try to get the other weapons who
sure, but I'd like to have 1 or 2. I'm not
It would
saying
be
that
helpful to
I'm not saying he needed to be my top exposed. I just, you want to have a bullet or two.
What could possibly go wrong in a week with 30% Andy Dalton and Matt Ryan with no Julio Jones?
I mean, the problem was Hopkins coming back.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So that would knock you out of the price tier. So
yeah. I'm okay. Look, I'm okay with it. There's nothing I could do now, so I'm not going to let it drive me crazy, but something to pay attention to, guys. If you're ever running and sorting through your crunch and you have a quarterback that you have a lot of, go make sure that you have cast a wide net on his wide receivers and stuff. And at the very least, get the best one.
An important lesson, of course, in DFS, and another important lesson, Rake will get you on every site. So thank you to fantasydraft.com for both sponsoring the show and providing a safe haven for rake-free daily fantasy sports out there. Go to fantasydraft.com right now. All the contest fees are paid to the winners, which is, a lot of money going to old Alex and to Shit My Money last week. And hopefully to Josh and me with our Dalton plays this week, but we'll find out in a little bit. So go support them. Go to fantasydraft.com right now and use that promo code Osmo. And of course, go to osmo.com/join to find all the packages we have. We are going to have that afternoon slate content, showdown ownership, afternoon slate ownership. That's all there for you. So go just do it now. Go to osmo.com/join. Find packages as low as $3.95 a week, or get the monthly ones because we got NBA, we got NHL, we got golf, we got so much stuff going on right now. To get half off that month package with the promo code Live Before Lock. And Josh, any parting words before we call it quits? Also, hit the like button because
hit the like button. Live Before Lock tonight at 7:30. Eric and Eric in the evening. What's the game? Colts Chiefs, right? Yeah.
Yep, Colts Chiefs. Eric and Eric in the evening.
There you go. That's basically all I've got. We're slowly getting close to NBA. NBA preseason live stream tomorrow with Fast Eddie Fear at whatever time the slate locks minus an hour.
Yeah. So go check it out. We're excited. Basketball season's here. Football season. We're playing a ton of Andy Dalton. How could you not be excited right now? We do appreciate all of you guys turning out. We appreciate the support. So hit that like button before you go. We will see you guys again soon. Good luck, guys.
Adios.